Hello everyone, welcome to the Did You Know channel. Have you ever heard the term under-invoicing? It's the practice of creating an invoice with a value lower than the actual price. And did you know that Singapore as a global trading hub is sometimes a strategic location for this practice? The question is, does under-invoicing in Singapore harm other countries? The answer is yes, and the impact is significant. Let's dive in. What is under-invoicing? Usually occurs in export-import transactions. For example, goods worth 100,000 USD are written on the invoice as only 50,000 United States dollars. What's the goal? To reduce import duties in the destination country. But who loses out? Other countries, of course. Case STUDY, Country A imports from Singapore. Imagine Country A imports goods from Singapore. If the exporter in Singapore deliberately under-invoices, the importer in Country A only pays import duties on the lower invoice value. The result: Country A loses customs revenue that should have gone to the state budget. Moreover, imported goods become artificially cheaper, making it difficult for local products to compete. Under-invoicing usually occurs in export-import transactions. For example, goods worth 100,000 USD are written on the invoice as only 50,000 United States dollars. What's the goal? To reduce import duties in the destination country. But who loses out? Other countries. Of course, impact on other countries when importing from them to Singapore. If an importer in Singapore requests an under-invoiced invoice from a supplier in Country B, then Country B loses foreign exchange and export tax revenue. This practice is also often a loophole for transfer pricing, shifting profits to Singapore by declaring a lower selling value. Country B loses, while Singapore indirectly gains a fiscal advantage. Why is Singapore highlighted? Singapore is the #1 trading hub in Southeast Asia. Many goods enter, leave, or simply transit there. Because it is extremely busy, monitoring invoice values is sometimes more difficult than in countries that are only final destinations. This loophole is sometimes exploited, even though Singapore has strict regulations. Under-invoicing can still occur through complex schemes such as dual invoices or shell companies. Now, let's look at a concrete example to make it clearer. Suppose a company in Singapore exports industrial machinery to Indonesia. The fair market price of the machinery is 100,000 United States dollars. However, the Singapore company issues an invoice for only 50,000 USD under Indonesia's import duties, say 10% of the invoice value. With under-invoicing, the importer in Indonesia pays only 5,000 USD in import duties, not 10,000 USD. Indonesia loses a potential 5,000 USD in revenue from just this one transaction. Imagine if this practice occurs thousands of times a year. The country's losses could reach tens or even hundreds of billions of rupiah. But the damage doesn't stop there. Because the imported machinery becomes artificially cheaper, local business owners who pay taxes correctly cannot compete. The result: local industries are threatened with collapse. Local workers lose their jobs. Ultimately, the country loses income tax from dead local businesses. Is there any positive impact for other countries? Some ask, can under-invoicing benefit other countries? For example, the importer gets cheaper goods. But remember that short-term gain is illegal and unsustainable. Other countries actually lose in the long run. State revenue falls, local industries die, and trade data becomes chaotic. Plus, a country proven to be a hub for this practice could face sanctions from international organizations like the World Customs Organization. So, in conclusion, under-invoicing in Singapore greatly harms other countries, whether they are importers, exporters, or transit countries. This practice is illegal, unethical, and damages the global trade ecosystem. We hope this video adds to your insight. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more educational content on economics and customs. Any questions? Write them in the comments section. See you next time.